Hey guys, it's Ted Bogert. Welcome back to the TED Show. I'm so excited to have this returning guest, a dear friend of mine. He has not been on the TED Show in quite some time, but he's back doing some really cool things. It's the one and only Niel Guilarte. Niel owns Wildstyle Media LLC, and he is a content creator, videographer, just a creator all over the place. Like he just does great work. He coaches people, he helps people out with their content creation, their podcasts, and we're here to get an update from him and learn some of the cool things that are going on in his life. Welcome back, my friend. How you doing?
Thank you. I'm doing so well and so happy to be back. It's been a few years, Ted. I think maybe 5.
I know. It's been probably 5 years. The show is celebrating its 7th year in August. So it's been a wild ride. And we have a mutual friend that sort of brought us together, Miss Kurt Garman. I do miss her. Hugs and kisses to her. But I always loved your passion for what you do. And I loved how you could dumb it down for even somebody like me. Because, wow, it can be, I mean, what I'm doing right now is leaps and bounds what I did before.
Yeah.
But you do it real professional. So I want to talk about that. I want to talk about content creation, podcasting. Sure. But before we do, tell them a little bit about you and about Wildstyle.
Yeah, well, thanks. And I just wanted to say one little thing. You know, last time I was on your show, we were both decked out in suits, and I kind of like that we could be just our human selves on this round.
Yeah, you know what? I'm home. I'm going to be in a shirt.
You always look good. So listen, I'm Niel Guilarte. I'm really excited to be here. I'm now in Tampa, but I lived in Orlando from 1988 until about 2014, where I was the producer for the mayor of Orlando most of that time. Moved out to Tampa, started a business doing, high-end video production. And at that time, podcasting was kind of the big deal. Started podcasting, made a documentary called The Messengers, which was sort of the first one on Amazon. I don't want to say the first, but I think it was. And that was kind of what really started the whole coaching and leaning heavier into content creation, where most of my career was just traditional video production. And then we moved back to Orlando briefly, which was when I was on your show. And then we ended up coming back to Tampa. So the past 5 years now, we've been back in Tampa. Have really moved into more of the virtual production space. So Mandalorian, LED backgrounds, the very, very high-end video. But I just kept seeing that gaping hole for everyone wanting to be a YouTuber or a video podcaster. And you said it best. Not everybody was doing it in a manner that was conducive. So they were fading out quickly. Yeah. And so we started putting a lot of our focus there. So that's what I'm doing now. I just came back from NAB in Vegas, and that's why I wanted to kind of come on your show and share a lot of what the big brands told us about content creation. It is going to be the year of the video content creator. And so I wanted you and your audience to be one of the first, having just got back from Vegas just a few weeks ago.
So talk about the Vegas. That must be what the biggest show, the big industry gathering.
Yeah, NAB is the National Association of Broadcasters. So pretty much anyone that has a video company or any interest in video or content goes there to meet with the brands, and then you get a very unique time to touch and feel the new toys, and then also get a lot of feedback on what's coming in the future.
So give us a little insight, because I'm always fascinated by that. I think people are still afraid of video. It's hilarious to me, and it's not that I don't. I do have respect for them, but I'm like, it's just not that hard. You don't have to be perfect. People really feel like they have to be perfect. So we'll get to that in a minute, but I'm dying to hear some things that you brought back, because if this is the year of the video creator, the video content creator, I want to hear more.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, Ted, you are sort of been doing it way before it was what it is, which is to just use video as a primary medium, and then you could strip the audio and make your regular podcast. A few years ago, when I was coaching podcasters only, I could not convince anyone to do video podcasting. As a matter of fact, going on your show, you were one of the first ones to really do it. And so now it's the complete and utter opposite. People are literally reopening studios that have closed just to have pre-made sets so that video creators can go in there, sit in a very nice lounge vibe, do a podcast, but with cameras now, live switching. And so the industry saw that. And then now the brands that were at once kind of ignoring us, major brands like Sennheiser, Canon, Blackmagic are now going to start making prosumer or consumer grade toys, you could say, new cameras, new microphones, custom built for the Ted Bogerts of the world that are using video and then also stripping the audio. So that's kind of what the future, why they say it's the year of the video creator. And then I want to say one more thing, which is that there's a new echelon that's we're starting to see. Before, I could never get anyone to spend, right? It's expensive. I'm not making any money. I'm not sponsored. We're seeing a unique trend now where people are saying, well, now that everyone can do it, I'm going to invest and start using higher end cameras, better sets, professional lighting, which I love because it's reintroducing them to the world of pro video. And so there is this unique little trend, and it is as of now a trend, but I foresee it becoming pretty normal, of investing a little more in yourself, if you will, and not just getting by with the minimum, even though you can, if that makes any sense.
Well, I think that's a good point. I think part of the problem was, from my experience, is that there were a lot of people who said they understood how to use the equipment, they were good at video creation, they could edit, and it ended up being a lot of shysters. And so people spent a lot of money and got burned. And so they were fearful a little bit, me included, of going with somebody who's promising all of this stuff. And then I see the final take and I'm like, oh my God, I could have done that with my eyes closed and maybe done better, or left it alone and used the raw footage and it would have been better. So it's a combination. It's a combination of investing in yourself, but it was also, there were a lot of people out there, which I feel like we've weeded out. I feel like most of those people have realized, okay, I can't be a shyster for too long. Because talk about the time consuming. So there's all these apps, there's all of these different things that you can do. I like StreamYard because it's simple. And once you learn it, it sort of almost looks like it's a newscast or prep.
Yeah, it looks amazing.
But there's plenty more I could do with it if I learn. There's plenty more I could do if I had multi-camera, if I understood editing better. So talk a little bit about that, because I think people don't realize how much time you put into that when you're doing your business.
So I'm in that, I find myself in this position every 5 years, in that position where technology catches up so much, it almost hurts my business. And then my only way to grow and to further help is for me to embrace what is kind of biting at me. So now we have to become the specialists in providing because what you said is true. They invest more money. They don't have the time to do the learning curve because they should be selling houses or whatever their art is. And then that's all we do is edit all day. So but it does become I could do it myself, because apps today will allow you to podcast by yourself, record by yourself, and even Opus Clip will rough cut your social for you. But the reality is that it's no different than having a real estate agent that's been around for 30 years sell you a home than the one that's been around for 6 months. So there's a level of understanding of media, regardless of how easy they make it. I tell people they made it easier for you to do it, but it doesn't mean you should still only do it. It empowers people like yourself that have enough vision, a bit of investment, that you get off and running. And now your show is legit. It's been out for years. So your next step would be multicam, right? Make it look like a TV show. You are literally who they talked about at NAB. But I would say that as far as our business, it's now become our job to now coach more, because they still want to do it on their own. So if that's the case, I'm going to guide you to do it well, so that when you do decide to hand it back to me, which they almost always do, or to someone else that does the service, it's a high quality piece of media you're giving me back, versus, oh my God, how am I going to fix this? This is horrible. And it cost them triple. So teaching people has helped out a lot to give me better media back when they do decide to have a professional do it.
I mean, there's people like you who understand that. I since you were last on the show, I've begun going on I'm a guest on podcasts now, right? So it's fascinating to me, because sometimes just this is better than the finished product that I see these people. And it's because they bought all the pretty equipment and they know how to use it just a little bit. But I was on a podcast within the last year, and I saw the final cut, and all I could think about was, all you can see is my crotch. You can't make this up. And I thought, all of that equipment, dual camera, I mean, the lighting was spot on. And I swear to God, the only thing you can see, or it's me because it's me, but I'm like, that's my crotch. Like where is the back and forth with the faces? And I mean, it would eventually pan up, but it just felt like it was somebody who had bought all the right toys, but didn't spend the time learning it and did what they could. And at the end of the day, I would have rather been on StreamYard with the person, not spend any money, and I would have been I think a better guest and be a better interview, because it could be a great interview too. And you and I both know the editing can screw it up.
Oh yeah, they could do the reverse. Yeah, and you were on like the Crotch Rocket podcast, probably me.
Oh, man, I literally saw that and I thought, am I going to share that? Like,
but you're right. Listen, it's not my place to tell people, hey, everyone should hire a team and everyone should have camera operators. Of course, listen, I'm like you guys. I want to make my podcast and I don't want 5 people staring at me. There is a certain amount. StreamYard is amazing at this, right? Like making it so we can just you and I do this and your viewers get an amazing show. Okay. What I'm talking about is that there's now when you and I talked 5-6 years ago, there were maybe 70,000 podcasts on iTunes. Today there's over 1 million, meaning you are now in a sea of overwhelm. And what's going to make you stand out at this point now is only production quality, because everyone can do it. So what I saw in Las Vegas at NAB was the major brands starting to say, well, YouTubers made a lot of money, but that trend is going to pass because YouTube keeps changing the algorithm. Okay. But you know who continues to make money are video podcasters, because every star now has one. And so what's happening is now everyone's going, well, I can't just do the one camera. I need to show my multiple guests, or like you said earlier, a 2-shot of Niel and Ted and the individual shots, but just to keep it interesting. And when you start to get to that level, can you still do it alone? Absolutely, yes. My friend at the Vegas Content Studio, he does it all day. But he also spends hundreds of hours learning the art and craft of video. And I guess that's my biggest point. Biggest takeaway of this whole visit with you today is there is a time always to call a pro. When you're painting your house, can you do it yourself? Yes. Should you hire the pro sometimes? Yes. Mechanics, can you fix it yourself? Yes. But can you sometimes go to a professional? So that's where I hope to be in people's mind, is when I'm ready to finally go another level. That doesn't mean I got to pay amazing, exorbitant pricing, but can someone like Niel and Wildstyle Media guide me, even if I'm not hiring them directly, to just do it right, like you said, set me up, maybe teach me. And then, of course, when you're ready and you're sponsored or you're doing well, or you just decide to spend the money, we're happy to send a crew and take you to a whole other level. Because like there's also a point where sponsors look, and if you don't reach a certain level, they don't even start looking to sponsor you. That's correct. They're actually waiting for you to reach a certain echelon, because they don't want to pay for all that. They want you to do it.
Correct. And
then they'll pay you.
Let me ask you. So one of the things that I've coached people on, not what you do, but if people talk to me about social media, about video content, is somebody will say, I want to do a podcast. And I think, okay, this should be interesting because your personality doesn't strike me as podcasty, because carrying on a conversation is difficult for them. But I'm like, all right, well, tell me what your ideas are. So have you ever had where somebody comes to you with an idea or a thing and you go, I don't see the long term on this? Like, a podcast isn't one episode. I mean, that's a video. A podcast is a commitment. One thing Gert taught me from the beginning: when you say you're going to do it, you got to do it. You got to do it regularly. You got to be consistent. And she was right. And I think a lot of these people think they have an idea, and maybe they do, maybe 2 episodes, but then what are you going to do?
You hit it.
So have you ever told people this isn't working?
Every day. I believe if I'm a really good coach, I help them find the right platform, and you couldn't have said it any better. And this is because you do have the experience. I tell people, are you a content creator or a wannabe podcaster? Because if you're just making content, make your 2 videos, put them on YouTube, market them like crazy, and get out until you have another good idea. If you're a podcaster, it means you would talk about this thing for free for 5 years, even if I didn't have a show. And if you're a video podcaster, you're just a podcaster that's really serious, and you want to back up your visuals as good as you do the rest. So you couldn't have said it any better. And I do tell a lot of people, the idea you have, you should just be a guest on another podcast that is going to be very consistent. And grow. And what we do is we try to help them grow the idea into the consistent episodic idea. And many times it's not, Ted. Many times it just needs to be a special series, a 3-part series. I mean, we work with a lot of realtors. I'll be honest with you. Realtors tend to be the first ones that want to do a lot because they want to stand out in a sea of real estate agents. But really, the ones that are most successful have done very specific series. Welcome to my 4-part series on, 3-part series on. And then if you build enough mileage there, then you could say, let me do the Ted Berger, real estate podcast.
Right.
So the reason you lasted, why? Because you talk to people about everything, business, mindset, coaching. And because you do all of that, you can relate to everyone. You're just going to keep on rolling because you're moving with the times.
I'm trying. Thank you for that. I mean, at some point, my goal in the next year is to expand the show. I've waited for a long time to do it. I think I've got my interview skills down pretty well. That's another thing. You go on a podcast and I'm a guest on a podcast and the person doesn't know how to ask anything but prepared questions. It just drives me crazy. And I'm thinking, how are you going to get through this? And the thing I always tell when I coach people on social media in general, people can tell fake. They can tell prepared. As well as I do, we don't prep anything here. Before we went live, I asked you a couple of things and you had no idea what I was going to specifically ask and how the conversation. But a lot of people think it's easy. And if their personality is someone who has to read a question and is thinking about the next question while the person's trying to answer, and the audience can see it. It visually can see you not paying attention to your guests. And I find that another thing when I'm coaching people, like, are you sure this is what you want to do? Do you really want to interview people? Maybe just doing you is the best route for you.
That just makes you a good coach. And like, to me, your next thing is take the show on the road. You're that good. You're good live. You're good in person. You're good on camera. You're good. I think what I would love to see as your friend that's been watching you forever and ever is, let's take this show on the road, right? Ted in Vegas or at these major events in your industry where I think you would be the industry leader and they would get off stage and go right to your podcast table because you're the hot one to get, right? Either that or, as you said earlier, right, maybe add a second camera and a little switcher here and there. But the good thing about your show, and I'm saying this to you, but also hopefully you're anyone out there that does a show similar to Ted's, is that you've kept it simple and it works every time. So you just turn on the stuff and you have a successful podcast, and a sponsor would more rather have that, Ted, than all the advanced in the world. And you're struggling and having technical issues. Oh, the camera's not switching. Oh, I'm sorry, the mic just went out. It's too loud. So you are the prime example of keep it simple, stupid, until it's time to grow it with a sponsor or someone wants to invest. And when I say you've been doing this a while, but you're not an overnight success. When you make it, it'll be these 8-9 years that are paying off finally. You know what I mean?
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Well, if I had $1 million, you'd get the first 500K.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's funny when you're doing your passion, which you do too. I mean, that you love helping people. You are talented at what you do, but you also love seeing them succeed. Yes. When you're doing that, you focus on that. Like, I know I should be focusing on the other stuff. And what you said is 1000% true. I'm finally getting to the point where I'm like, I need to listen to that more often because I'm good at telling you need to take the leap. And then me,
that's every coach.
Do it. But I appreciate those kind words because the show has progressed. It's time for its next iteration, which I have ideas about, which I'll talk to you about off camera. But I feel like you coming on today is definitely a meant to be scenario.
But you're also an industry leader in your defense, right? So you're an industry leader. If you follow him, he's always in groups, leading groups, doing real estate, doing finance. So it'd be different if this is all you did and you weren't growing. You're growing it year by year while not slowing down on your industry responsibilities. You're also a family man. So that's why I say you're leaps and bounds ahead of most people that even have the resources, but they're not. It's just because it's popular to do right now. You've gone to longevity through COVID and back.
Yeah.
So your consistency will be your payoff. Like, really, and I'm not just saying that to compliment you because I'm on your show, because we're friends outside of the show.
Right.
And you can come to me anytime and I would tell you what I feel, but I say this also not just to compliment you, but to, again, anyone that's watching that does something similar or wants to, is this is the model to follow. Simple, consistent, right? Professional. The money's just if at that point, not when. It's just, okay, it's good. I mean, it's more like when it comes, sorry, not if, it's coming. So that's why I think you're so successful, but you're also an industry leader. And if someone's an industry leader and creating content, that's a double whammy. That's hard to do. You could have given up just being tired a long time ago. I watch you.
I am tired, Neil, but I love what I do on all spectrums. So that's very kind. Thank you, my friend. And I want people to really engage you. I want people to take a look at your work, your website scrolling across the bottom there. But can you tell them the best way they can find out more about you and Wildstyle?
Yeah, to wrap up, pretty much it's wildstylemedia.net. We are out of Tampa, but we go anywhere on green earth. We've gone everywhere, and we continue to do so. But we are really focusing a lot on Orlando, Tampa, like the whole Central Florida market. My email is Niel, Niel, at wildstylemedia.net. And of course, our socials are at Wildstyle Media. I think the only thing I'd like to make sure I get in is just so that they get value packed, is to give just one or two very, very fast tips.
I love that. That's
because
awesome.
I love the questions and I love talking about the company. But you said it best. I win when I see someone win because they were able to get one nugget and apply it.
Yes.
And my thing is two things that I've learned. Like I mentioned to you, I recently, lost my father, and it has really put things into clarity for me. My dad used to say, God made an earth, not a city, for you to live in. And so what that meant was think globally. Stop thinking like you just want to dominate your local market or be someone in your local market, when today's technology allows TED to be seen in 92 countries. And I think, like, even though your show might be being seen in 92 countries, are you engaging the 92 countries? Right. Because you might find your investment from the Philippines because that guy loves you so much, but because you're not asking him, he doesn't feel like he's welcome to invest. So that's my first tip. We are in the first generation on God's earth that can market our little thing globally. The second thing is the world is changing so fast that you just have to start ugly and get your content made. And people like me, people like Ted, that either coach, inspire, or produce for you, our job is to get you on the conveyor belt. Your job is just to have a wonderful idea and be coachable. Yes. And I think if you take away just that from today's podcast appearance, is to just start ugly but think global. Because I think so many talented people get stuck because they're only popular in Vegas, they're only popular in LA. When really you probably don't realize you're very popular in Kentucky, but because you never say hi Kentucky on your show, they don't feel like they can say hi back. So open your doors to who's watching, look at your stats and say, hi, Japan, I noticed 9 of you are watching me.
Yes.
Because that one of those 9 can be your investor. I'll leave it at that.
Right?
I'll leave it at that.
I love that,
I'd love to leave with you guys.
Thank you for sharing that, because they could use those tips. And you're absolutely right. Global, if you're not thinking global at any of your businesses, you are missing out. But I love that second tip, because I have a lot of followers because of COVID, doing it international, having international guests. And wow, I am
saying hi, and inviting them for sure.
Yes. All right, brother. I
right.
appreciate you so much. Thank you, Niel Guilarte. And you can find him at wildstylemedia.net or on all the socials at Wildstyle. Thank you, brother. I love you and appreciate you.
Love you as well. God bless you all.
God bless you, my friend. We'll see you guys soon. Bye, everybody.